Visitor's Book, and I'm Maija, your host. In this program, we're going to be meeting with diplomats and foreigners who live here in Pakistan, and we're going to find out what they really think about the country. Let's go. So today we're here at NUST, and we're here to meet with Dr. Najimdeen Bakare, Professor of International Relations. So let's go find him. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good
Welcome
afternoon.
to SIPS. You can have your seat.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, wow, this is quite an impressive institute. Can you tell me a little bit about what goes on here?
Fortunately, this Center for International Peace and Stability, it was established back in 2005 and 2015. It has been an extended institution, but it was formally inaugurated by the then Secretary General of United Nations, Ban Ki-moon. And so we had the opportunity of the UN Secretary General opening this institute.
Wow.
So it's more or less having two departments. One is Department of Peace and Conflict Studies, where we teach students in terms of master's program and PhD programs. And we also have the other department, which is peacekeeping training program.
Yeah.
So
Which is here in this building.
So where we kind of teach or sensitize military officers who will be later deployed to the peacekeeping missions of the United Nations.
Amazing. And I mean, they're from all over the world, not just from Pakistan, right?
Sure. Most of these officers are from about 30 countries that are coming here to SIPS, and it's been quite experiential having opportunity to synthesize and train officers across the world. So we have people from officers from Nigeria, officers from Ghana, from United States, Britain, UK. So it's more of a cosmopolitan teaching center that trained officers across the globe.
That's amazing. And which countries do you currently have that?
At the moment, we have officers from Ukraine, from the US, from Nigeria. We also have officers from the Central Asian countries and also from Sri Lanka.
So how come is the institute here in Pakistan? Like, has Pakistan played such an important role in the UN peacekeeping missions, or what is the reason
if you look at history, Pakistan has been playing a very vital and significant role in US peacekeeping missions since the 1960s.
Yeah.
So it has a very long tradition in contributing to this whole tradition of peacekeeping missions. And ever since then, we now thought, or the Pakistan government thought, we need a center where we can actually train people to contribute to peacekeeping. And over a period of time, even the United Nations has recognized Pakistan as an important player. So if you remember the role of Pakistan peacekeepers in Somalia, and how they were able to rescue the American soldiers that were ambushed by the Somalis. And fortunately, Pakistan soldiers have been sent to one of the most tedious and very hectic peacekeeping missions across the globe, particularly in Congo or in Central African countries. So that tradition is there.
And you yourself, you're from Nigeria originally. How did you end up in Pakistan? And when?
Yeah, that's a very long story anyway. I've been in Pakistan since 2006, though I was a researcher who was trying to understand the political dimension of Islamic political movements across the globe. From the intellectual perspective, we do understand that there are two places where you can actually understand Islamic movements. One is Egypt, and the other is Pakistan, because these two places, they have contributed to the whole Islamic political philosophy in Egypt and in Pakistan. So I felt, why not come to Pakistan, where this is the home of Jamaat al-Islami.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so
it was like an academic interest that drove you here.
Definitely. And so the environment became so fascinating and enticing. So That's why I'm still here.
Okay. And so 2006, you came here to conduct the research for your PhD, is that correct?
No, that was for my MS program.
Okay, I see.
Program.
So what was the topic of your research here?
While I was looking at this dimension of Islamic movement, I also got interested in the affairs of Muslims in Europe. And that was why I was able to write my thesis on Muslims in Europe, looking at the different political, economic, cultural challenges facing Muslims living in the European setting. So it's a very interesting discussion anyway, understanding how Muslims moving from the Muslim majority society and coming down to Europe, which we can refer to as the Muslims of the Hedge or Islams of the Hedge. So it's been experiential for me, and it has contributed to how we understand the whole discourse about minority. So when you look at minority in one hand, and you look at the Muslims in Europe as a segment within these whole minority discussions. So it's a very interesting debate. And I think it has continues to unfold itself in different formats. And that has also become more complicated as a result of the recent past issues of Islamic so-called extremism or radicalization, though it's very controversial. So the Muslims in France, the Muslims in UK, the Muslims in the Scandinavian countries, whether it is Finland, it is Sweden, Norway and Denmark, or even in the small Baltic state like Estonia or Lithuania, you find also a segment of Muslim society, even they're very much scanty. So it's wonderful looking at about 5 million Muslims all across France, and altogether across Europe you have about 15 million Muslims. So they are important minorities that want to be understood.
So how did you study European Muslims from Pakistan, or did you go to Europe to study it, or how did that work?
I guess it is both ways. I did the most of the quality studies here in Pakistan. Though I used to travel to Europe to understand. I do have my network, so the epistemic community where we connect and kind of understand. So there are a lot of literatures anyway on European Muslims, so that wouldn't be a kind of academic limitations to not understanding. But one good thing about my understanding of Muslim in Europe is that it has been a long process for me itself. I've been involved in a research project, so I've taken almost 6 to 10 years understanding the European Muslims before coming up with a thesis. So it's not something I woke up one day and start writing. So it's been a tradition for me myself.
And I mean, 2006, when you first came here, the situation was quite different to how it is today. What do you think has been the biggest change you've observed in Pakistan over the years?
There have been an exponential changes in Pakistan, exponential changes. There were periods whereby in Pakistan, particularly in Islamabad, where at one point in time, the BBC refers to Islamabad as the city of roadblocks. But things has changed altogether. We do know that for the last 10, 15 years, the situation was very, very bad.
Yes, it was very tough.
It was very tough. But the security situation now is relatively fine. And I think for anyone who is interested in visiting Pakistan would find out he or herself that Pakistan is a peaceful, worthy country to live in, as opposed to what we know or what the media says about
this region,
particularly in respect to Pakistan. And that, of course, explains why the current administration of Prime Minister Imran Khan has focuses on expanding and improving the tourism industry in Pakistan so as to facilitate more foreigners to come into Pakistan. And I think this is a good step for Pakistan, changing the international image of this country.
Exactly. And you know, that brings me back to all the officers who come here from all over the world. Where do they live? How long do they stay here actually when they come here?
We do have a kind of facilities for them here, accommodation on campus. So they come here for 2 weeks courses, and so for that 2 weeks we give them, it's more of a gratis. Free. Exactly. So, but anyway, it's the respective government have to pay their air ticket. But here we have to facilitate in terms of meal and accommodation. So they stay on campus, and they do carry the good image of Pakistan home.
Yeah, so they usually have a good experience in the country.
Definitely. Great. And they're not just confined on the campus. So we try to take them around Islamabad and to the outskirts of Islamabad. Some of them would have been visiting Texla, and some will have gone to Mona and different museums even within. So it's not just coming to the classroom, learning from morning to evening.
Exactly.
So we also have these extracurricular activities for them so that they can get the feeling, the society, what's actually going on. Take for example, we do take them to the bazaar in Pindi. So it is not just the elitist environment in Islamabad, but they also get the flair, the sensitization of what goes on in Pindi. I think this is
very important.
A big part of that.
What would you say are the main differences between Nigerian and Pakistani culture?
The main difference is, I think culture is a universal language. It's a universal norm. It's something that connects people. Though you might live in different geographical areas, but nevertheless, there are certain similarities in your cultural understanding. And that's why, from a sociological perspective, we look at culture as a cosmopolitan, a Catholic, a universal values. One, from that part of Nigeria where I come from, which is Lagos, I live in a very cosmopolitan, in quotes, a westernized society. But again, my part is somehow Islamic. So coming to Islamic Muslim Pakistan isn't that new for me. So it's something being at home, the one. But secondly is for how people relate with foreigners. First thing is that I have to learn the language of survivor. The second part is how people relate with the foreigners. And I think this is not singular, because you find people relate with foreigners here in Pakistan in a different way. There have been a lot of experience in terms of that. I remember my very first experience at the airport, and it makes me smile anytime I remember that.
How was that?
It was really funny that people want to trick me because they think, oh, this is a new face. It's just what we call in Nigeria JJC, Jolly Just Come.
Okay.
So it's easy to cheat person who just come in.
Oh, right.
But I was just smiling and I said, oh, I'm coming from Lagos, and Lagos is the center of excellence. So if you're a Lagosian, you can never be cheated anywhere in the world.
That's very good.
So that has been, but generally speaking, the culture has been accommodating. Generally speaking, it has been accommodating, particularly with the Islamicity of the culture. So we do know that in Pakistan, particularly if you're in Islamabad, that Islamabad is very liberal. It's open to all. So definitely in a liberal environment, you can accommodate, you can find your own niche within that. And fortunately for me, I spend most of my time on the campuses. So you can understand the sort of people I relate with on campuses. Again, these are what I will refer to as open-minded people,
Yes.
people who are tolerant and accommodating.
Yeah. And I mean, growing up in a huge city in Nigeria, what made you so interested in getting into academics?
It's my passion. I do have a teacher back home in Nigeria who has always trained us, or trained me particularly, in this habit of reading. So I've long developed the culture of reading. So this reading culture became so much inciting. It's more of an inspirational, that to a large extent, I believe since I completed my secondary school, I've been groomed towards joining the academia.
Yeah, so it was always there. What
been
about your parents? What did they do? And how did they feel about this passion of yours?
I think I come from a very liberal family.
Yeah, okay.
So my parents wouldn't have any hesitation
Yeah.
to allowing me to become whatever I want to.
That's
to
amazing.
be. So there is no particular vocation or profession in my family. Though my father is a doctor, but he never imposed his own medical professionalism on us. So we're free. Yeah. We're free to choose our own professions.
That's great. We're going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm here at NUST with Dr. Najimdeen. So, like we mentioned, you came here to work on your PhD research in 2006. Then once you got done, you got offered work here at NUST, right?
No, earlier before joining NUST, I've been teaching in other universities. So I teach as a permanent faculty member at Christian University. Thank you. Then later I joined NUST University in 2016.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And right now you're teaching mainly international relations, is that right?
Yes, as a segment of international relations, I teach a subject which is related to peace and conflict studies.
Okay.
So if you see the whole name of this center, Center for International Peace and Stability.
Right.
So we actually look into the different dimension of peace and conflict discussed across the world, looking at it from both domestic, regional, and global perspective. And it's very, very interesting. I mean, this subject, though like I said earlier, my specialization is on politics and international relations, with certain focus on European Muslims and European Union.
Yeah.
But I do have certain expertise as well on this whole peace dimension, because I've been trying to explain the notion of peace from an Islamic perspective. That what does Islam say about peace? Despite whatever we know of the radical groups or what have been attached to Muslims, but still their scripture, which is the Quran, it offers certain explanations on how to deal with conflict in a very systemic, methodic, and very rational way. So we need to explore that, and so that explains this Islamic peace theory.
Okay. How interesting. And is that like a class you're teaching here, or like a research interest?
It is a research on which a paper is being written on.
Oh, excellent. And do you think there is like potential for governments to, like Islamic governments, to use Islam as a kind of a peace building tool?
Sure, it depends on how we're able to sell this idea of Islamic peace theory, because by the notion of Islamic peace theory, we're not just looking at it from a religious perspective. It is very cultural and social in nature, and most of the conflicts, they're not religious.
Right.
They're very social in nature.
Absolutely.
And over a period of time, they get politicized.
Yeah.
So it is only, like I said, how we sell it to policymakers. So the most important thing is that there's a need for collaboration between the policymaker and the academia to sit together or to implore the academia to come up with alternative peace measures.
Right.
Alternative peace measures, which is part of Islamic Peace theory.
And do you think that has been at all used in Pakistan, for example?
To a certain extent.
Yeah.
Because when you look at Pakistan as a country, Islamic country, a Muslim country, they do have their own domestic culture that talks about peace.
Right.
So what we call the jigger system in the local area. And I do have a student, a PhD student, who is about having his degree of PhD, who is looking at this alternative peace theory. And is more concentrating on the importance of traditional values and traditional cultures in selling the message of peace and how to resolve conflict instead of the bookish, or if you allow me to say, the Western perspective of peace.
Right.
That might not be able suit, or that doesn't suit the situation here in the country. You know, for every conflict there is a context.
Yeah.
And for every conflict there is a concept attached to it. So bringing in a foreign remedy to a particular situation might be something else.
Yeah, exactly.
So in our department, in Peace and Conflict Studies department, we are urging the students to come up with arguments that might actually conceptually and contextually address the issues as they ought to be addressed.
Okay.
And this is how we've trained our students, and alhamdulillah, we have numbers of students who are doing well, coming up with different narratives on how to address the issue of conflict.
Oh, that's so interesting. And what kind of degree programs do you have here? Like, what do the students graduate with? What kind of
They
degrees?
graduate with Masters in Philosophy.
Okay.
Sometimes we call it Masters of Science,
Right.
MS in Peace and Conflict Studies, or Masters in Philosophy in Peace and Conflict Studies.
Okay.
So aside from the Masters program, we also have a PhD program, PhD in Peace and Conflict Studies. So these are the two postgraduates. We have graduates and postgraduates, so MS and PhD.
And what kind of career goals do most of your students have? Do they want to get into diplomacy or like the UN or something like that?
You're right, and that's one of the aims most students who join this department, for the very fact that this institutional center was established under the banner of the United Nations. So there is this euphoria. Oh, I want to be part of UN. I want to be part of UN.
Yeah.
So luckily enough, most of our students, they get themselves, either some of them becomes part as a researcher in the think tanks within Pakistan. We have students who are becoming members of ICRC. For example, one of the ICRC, they offered us a position to one of our students.
Excellent.
And a few of our students, they are pursuing those that have graduated from MS. They are further pursuing their degree in PhD. And but major, if you look at the chunk of our students here, they are in the think tanks, contributing to research. And we have few as a teachers as well, teaching in different universities.
And do you get a lot of international students here also from other countries outside of Pakistan?
Yes, this is happening now. Maybe in the past it has not been the case, but as we speak now, NOST is opening its door to international students as well.
Any Nigerian ones here?
At the moment, no, but there would be in the next fall, because I know one Nigerian which is coming.
Great.
But I know of other African countries that are studying here.
And I mean, Pakistan must be a pretty easy destination for students from all over the world, because teaching is often in English here, and that makes it much easier.
That's true.
Yeah.
Comparatively to other countries, like for example, maybe in Sweden, where at the bachelor's level, subjects are not necessarily in English, but in Swedish language. So.
That's great. What about the teachers here? Are you the only international teacher or not?
As much as I know, I think there are other international teachers now on campus.
Okay.
I met one a few months ago from Yemen.
Okay, wow.
And one from Turkey.
Oh, excellent.
Turkey. So we have probably few numbers of foreign teachers here at NUST. But the university is actually it has built a reputation based on quality.
Yeah.
And this quality is not just confined to Pakistan, it is becoming kind of a global phenomena which is recognized. And that explains also the proliferation of the alumni of NUST. So you see them moving all across the globe, doing well in their own sphere of vocations or professionalism. So take for example, graduate from business school, or the graduate from computer science or engineering, so like I said, or even electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, which is our best of departments, like I told you, and this is number one in the whole of Pakistan and even in Asia. And we continue that to get this of the last ranking. We were about out of thousands and thousands of universities all over the world. You might be surprised that NUST got into within the first 500 best universities in the world.
That's a big achievement. Yeah,
indeed,
excellent.
for a university that is just an asset within 50 years of age.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be in 500. So, like I told you, so the profile of NUST is all because of its quality-oriented or quality, I should say, objective, quality of the administration, the quality of the faculty, as well as the quality of the students.
And how would you compare higher education in Nigeria and in Pakistan?
That's a very tricky question.
Yeah.
Education in Nigeria is very tough.
Yeah.
Very tough. For anyone who has studied in Nigeria, you can study anywhere in the world.
Right.
Because we were trained to be very tough. We were trained to be very tough. I remember those days in my undergraduate where I studied 12 courses in just one semester.
Wow, that's huge. Yeah.
As compared to maybe in Pakistan, you study maybe 5 or 6.
Yeah.
So if I'm studying 12 courses, I've studied 12 courses. So if somebody is offering me 5 courses, oh, fine.
Yeah.
So education in Nigeria is actually very, very tough. And you might be surprised that our passing mark is 40 marks. But here in Pakistan, I think it's 50, 60 marks.
Right.
So it's very difficult for you to get 40 marks. It's a very competitive and tough education system. And one good thing about the Nigerian education system, which I love and has trained people like me and a lot of people, is the fact that it is based on comprehension.
Right. Yeah.
And I think which is in the line of most of the European or advanced country, where you need to understand, not to memorize.
Exactly.
Not to memorize.
Like to get away from the rote learning.
Rote learning. It becomes more conceptual. And we're being taught that when you're conceptual, you have a master key with you, and you can open a lot of doors with your concept. So that's one good thing about the education in Nigeria. And luckily enough, we also have one of our universities in Nigeria that fell within the first 500 best universities in the world.
Okay.
It's a private university, not a state university.
Yeah. What about Pakistani youth and Nigerian youth? Any similarities or differences there?
Youth are always youth anyway. Youth are always youth. So whether it is in Nigeria or it is in Pakistan, youth are always youth.
Yeah.
They're always youth.
Do you see any any potential that you see particularly here in Pakistan that you don't see anywhere else that could be utilized in the future?
I think for Pakistani youth, frankly speaking, you find people, particularly the ladies, the female, And this is my own dimension to women empowerment. I'm very sorry to say, of recent, on last Sunday or so, Women's Day being celebrated. I think Pakistan has empowered a lot of women.
Yeah.
If you look at the campuses, you have almost 60 to 70% of female students.
Right. That's huge.
I don't know the case in Europe.
Yeah.
I don't know the case in Europe. But to have 60 to 70, even 80%.
Exactly.
In my class, for example, in my current class this semester, just 2 boys.
Oh, really?
Out of 28 students,
Wow.
only 2 are boys, and the rest 26 are female. Now tell me, and you start saying, oh, Pakistan doesn't recognize female empowerment, they do this to the female. I don't think this is true. I don't think that. And one thing is that the youth here, they're very enterprising.
Yeah.
And they're very enterprising. They want to make the best out of themselves.
That's true.
They want to make the best out of themselves. And they struggle as much as possible to get educated.
Yeah, that's a very...
So, and that's one thing you find. You find the layers or the clusters of universities or academic institutions in Pakistan for the elite, for the middle class and the lower class.
Yeah.
There's some educational institution which is for the lower class, and certain educational institution which is for the middle class, and some for the elite.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's there for you that you can place yourself anywhere you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I guess now we can have a break for lunch, and please join me downstairs for lunch.
Thank you so much. Let's do that.
You're welcome.
Time to take a short break. I'll see you in a bit.
Have your seat.
Thank you. Welcome back. I'm here at NUST with Dr. Najimdeen. All right, so here's some lunch for us.
Yeah.
Are you fond of Pakistani food?
Somewhat.
Somewhat. Is it very different from traditional Nigerian food?
Not really, except a few meal in Pakistan that's quite very particular about Pakistan, or special about Pakistan meal. Otherwise, I think we almost eat the same kind of food.
Right, like rice and meat.
Sure.
Yeah. Is it as spicy as Pakistani food?
Yes, in my part of Nigeria, we are very known with spices,
Okay.
particularly in the winter.
Oh, that's interesting. That like during like winter you eat different kind of food from summer.
Yeah, it's right. And we have a particular food which is called pepper soup.
Okay.
So look at pepper soup. So it's more of a very spicy. So you can call it spicy soup.
Oh, wonderful. Do you ever miss Nigerian food while living here?
Definitely.
Yeah. It's not possible to make it here?
Well, it is if you have the opportunity of there are certain places where they get the ingredients as well as the resources. So
yeah.
and sometimes when we have Nigerian Day or Independence Day at the embassy, so that's an opportunity to get your hands on the original Nigerian food.
Excellent. That's right. You do have an embassy here.
Sure.
So that's very nice. Okay. So how do you feel living in Islamabad? How different is it to your hometown, Lagos?
Islamabad is different in the sense that it is very, very similar to Abuja, my capital. It's said that the 3 capitals around the world that are constructed in a particular way.
Right.
Number 1 is Washington, Islamabad, and Abuja.
Okay,
So
like
all
planned
these
cities.
they're planned cities, and virtually in the same structure.
Okay.
So, but my city, Lagos, is kind of having some semblance with Karachi. So we're having around 20 million plus of people who live in
around
Lagos.
the same size as
Just in one Lagos, and in a city in Lagos.
Wow.
So Lagos is more cosmopolitan city.
Yeah.
Very congested, but lovely beaches and ocean, Atlantic Ocean. So I miss that about Lagos.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And a lot of rainfalls.
Okay, yeah, so there's like two seasons basically, the dry season and the rainy season.
We have 3 seasons.
Oh, okay.
So we have what is called the Harmattan, so which is the dry, cold season.
Okay.
And you have the wet season, of course, which is 3 months,
Okay.
almost 3-4 months of rain. Then you have the dry season.
Okay. How has it been adjusting to Pakistani or Islamabadi winters that are quite cold for you, I'm sure?
Sure, but I think I've acclimatized myself
Yeah, you have.
to the so I don't feel it that much anymore. That,
Okay.
so the winter is, perhaps I prefer the winter than the summer.
Oh yeah. Wow. So you've become true Pakistani then. That's what I hear everyone say. Like, I love winters. I'm like, I don't. I hate
I
it.
think it differs. It differs. I find students tell me, oh, sir, I'm so fed up of this winter. Let it go.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for summer.
Yeah.
And when summer comes, it's, oh no, I'm fed up of summer.
Yeah, that's true. So you live here actually with your family.
Sure.
So your wife is here and 4 boys,
Yes.
right? How old are they?
One is, I think, around 16, 17 years and lesser.
Yeah.
So, and school-going boys.
Oh, okay. So they go to school here.
Yes.
How do they like it here?
Fortunately for them, they could speak the local language very well,
Okay.
more than I do. Perhaps
Yeah.
I don't even understand the local language.
Yeah.
So they speak the local language as a native speaker.
Wow.
So that, of course, gives them the opportunity to integrate as much as they could. But they can always find their own challenges as kids.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And do you go back home to Nigeria a lot?
I used to go home after maybe 2-3 years interval.
Oh, okay, so not that much at all. So Islamabad is home now.
If you say so, my second home.
Okay. What is the favorite thing about Islamabad for you? What do you like the most?
I wouldn't say love. I can simply say one unique thing about Islamabad is that you can rig him and roll. You can move around Islamabad in 30 minutes
Yeah,
if there's no traffic.
exactly.
It's a very small city where it's easy to navigate
Yeah, that's
in a
very
matter of
true.
30 minutes.
And
So that's one thing I love about Islamabad.
And that's very different to, like you said, your hometown and Karachi. And you've gotten to travel a bit in Pakistan as well. Where have you been?
I've been to Quetta.
Oh, wow.
So it was really experiential for me to be in Quetta. I've many times visited Lahore,
Yeah.
very good city,
Yeah. Very
and also to some part of KP, which is Peshawar, and Dhi Khan.
Do you have a favorite city or region in Pakistan?
Let's say because of the meal in Peshawar, I'll say meal in Peshawar is my favorite.
Oh, wow.
But one thing about Lahore is that when you go to Lahore, you're spoiled with food.
That's true.
So they say if you don't if you're not a glutton, you don't have to come to Lahore because the Lahoris are glutton,
yeah.
but not in a negative way anyway. So
Yeah.
I don't mean it in negative way. Just like the hospitality, it is being expressed through giving out food.
Exactly. Is that something that's different? Do you find that in Nigeria at all, or is it something that's very special to Lahore?
It is something very special about Pakistan. So there is a joke we say, the beginning of Pakistan is food and the end of Pakistan is food.
Yeah.
So if you are in a big food business in Pakistan, you can never go bankrupt.
That's very true.
You can never go bankrupt. So if I would advise anyone to come for business in Pakistan, do business in the food industry. You wouldn't go bankrupt.
And you mentioned that you've tried a lot of different kinds of biryanis as well. Is that like a favorite for you?
Yes, it is. If it is good biryani, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And in different cities, different cuisines which are really special. If you go to Peshawar, you find their own traditional way of cooking that really entice you. It becomes so magical.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. And you go to Quetta, they also have their own special dish and things like that.
Yeah, and I think this one is actually, I'm not sure, is this chapli kebab or what do we have here? Let's see.
I know it's kebab, but I don't know the name.
Yeah. Please. I'm sure.
I think this is kebab.
Yeah.
And this must be, I've forgotten the name of this.
Sikh kebab, I think.
Sikh kebab.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me have a bit of this.
Yeah. And I mean, now you've been here for 14 years almost, right? With your family. Are they still okay living here with you, or are they thinking like, let's go back home soon? Or
I think there's this fluctuation of feelings where people want to go home,
yeah,
and still they are fascinated by what goes on here. Particularly for the kids, they are more integrated to the local society.
of course.
Comparatively to adults like me and the parents, where they might sometimes become so nostalgic of going back home. But for the kids, they are more integrated.
Yeah, and they must have a lot of friends here.
Definitely.
Do they find there's enough to do in Islamabad for them?
I think less.
Yeah.
I think less.
Maybe bigger cities would be more interesting for them. Yeah. So aside from that, I mean, Pakistan, all over the world, I think, is known for the hospitality that people here show to foreigners especially. Have you noticed that? And do you have any memorable experiences regarding that?
Yeah, I think that would be true for my experience in Peshawar with the Pashtun tribe. So it is part of the Pashtun tradition to be very hospitable. Exactly. And you would realize that while going from Punjab, this part of Punjab, towards Peshawar. So about getting to Peshawar, it is written, "Welcome to the land of hospitality."
Right, yeah.
And indeed, the Pashtuns are very hospitable. Indeed, they are very hospitable. I'm not saying that other tribes are not, or ethnic groups, they are not there also, but I think that hospitality is there. It also shows in the way the Pakistanis, they welcome you. When you visit anyone, they are ready to at least share their food.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
one thing, whether it is water or tea. And in Pakistan, a typical Pakistan will say, no, you can't leave my house without having a cup of
Exactly,
tea.
yeah.
At least. So, more or less, you find that nature of being hospitable to people, at least show them some feelings of humanity.
Yeah.
So these I've told my students many a times that Pakistan might have its own challenges, but there are things within this country, there are values in this country you find less in many places.
Yeah. How long do you think you will stay here still?
As much as my destiny wants me.
Wonderful. Okay. Okay, then it's time for a rapid fire round. Are you ready?
I hope it's not a missile.
Okay. Shalwar kameez or suit?
Suit.
Okay. Lahore or Karachi?
Lahore.
Oh, okay. Niger or Indus?
Niger.
Football or cricket?
Football, of course.
Do you even watch cricket in Nigeria?
No, I never watched cricket in Nigeria.
Okay.
I never. But since coming to Pakistan, I've been kind of following it up.
Okay, cool. Chicken biryani or jollof rice?
Oh, my favorite jollof rice.
Wonderful. Abuja or Islamabad?
Can I choose both?
Sure.
Okay.
Fair enough. Chin chin or pakoras?
Chin chin.
What is that like, actually?
Chin chin is made from flour. So it's a fried flour. So you mix it up with egg. It's just like you're making a cake, but in a different way. So, but it has to be fried.
Excellent. Afi Mountains or Himalayas?
Himalaya.
Great. The first thought that comes to your mind when I say the Quetta bazaars?
Quetta Bazaar. I've not been there, so I don't have an opinion about it. But one bazaar I know in Quetta is that it's very fruity. There are a lot of fruit being sold there.
Dry fruit, probably.
Fried fruit.
Good. Margala Hills?
Oh, Beautiful.
Yeah? The best thing about Pakistan?
The culture of the family, the structure of the family, the supremacy of the family. That's the best thing I've seen in Pakistan.
Great. Okay. Then it is time for you to sign our visitor's book.
Okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
Let's see what you wrote. The country with value of culture and family structure where Islam has dominated the public sphere. Indeed, a country not known to many, but people claim to know it. Wonderful. So I hope you continue to enjoy your stay in the country, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it for today. Please join me again next week, and don't forget to follow us on our social media accounts at indus.news. Goodbye.